Hello, welcome back. Today is going to be another semi-quick sort of floral study. So in my front yard, an exciting development has been, we've now reached the 2-week period of the year where my rhododendron is blooming. So I have a little rhododendron flower that I'm going to be doing a pretty quick study with. I'm thinking pencil sketch, maybe a pen outline, and probably a watercolor wash. I'm a little undecided about if I'll even do any shading on top of that. My goal is to I want to spend about 20 to 25 minutes on it. So I've got my blossom right here. We're working in a little mixed media pad. I've got my handmade modern watercolors. I have my colored pencils here if I want to do sketching on top. And then of course I have a 6B drawing pencil, and probably for this I'll use a 01 micron pen. So I'm gonna go ahead and flip you down so that you can see what we're working with, and let's go ahead and get into it. All right, so I've got our materials all laid out. Let's see. I don't think I want to do straight down looking at the flower. I think I want to do like a side profile. So I'm just kind of twisting it around in my fingers to figure out what I like best. Kind of feeling like right here feels good. Okay. I love to start right where the petals meet the stem. I always find it so fascinating what people choose as their starting points for a drawing, especially when people are doing portraiture. I find it so interesting where different people start. I know a lot of people start with the eyes. I often tend to start with the nose. If you are also a drawer of portraits, I would love to hear what you start with. I think it's always an interesting one. If you happen to tune into last week's video, I was doing a little tulip study in my sketchbook. That one was very, very sketchy. It did not have a ton of detail. I'm aiming to get a little bit more detail in this one, but still nothing too crazy since I'm not spending a ton of time. But on that one, I did 2 angles as well, which this one I will probably only do this one. But I'm trying to make sure I don't overthink it here. I have lots of other projects, not necessarily art projects that I'm working on. But my mom is going to be in town this week, and so I've been doing lots of house preparations. She's going to be staying with me. I've been refinishing a bathroom cabinet. So when I got home from work today, I immediately went out and put another coat of varnish on it, which is just kind of annoying because it takes like 3 to 4 hours to dry. And because I work, that means I typically have to end up applying coats on different days. Because after I get home, if I apply a coat, by the time 3 to 4 hours goes by, it is real dark outside. Okay, I'm going in with my pen. Ooh, this one is really dragging against the paper. It is pretty dry. I may end up switching. This is the only 01 I had in my set here on my desk, so I may end up switching over to a 02. Let's see how far I can take this one. And of course, I'm immediately not following my pencil sketch all the way. I always start a sketch and I think that's good enough. And then when I go to ink it with the pen, I always catch all of the smaller details. Oh yeah, this one is struggling, so I'm going to switch to a 02. Very lightly go over some of the lines I've already drawn, just for the sake of consistency here. This one makes such an interesting sound against the paper. I do love working with watercolors, but I really don't work with mixed media paper that often. I usually work on Bristol board. Sometimes I forget how rough this paper is. Makes that scratchy sound with the pen. I love all of these little details being clustered over here in the corner. I think it's kind of fun when you have a contrast between like all these bigger, more open shapes and then just tiny pockets of detail. I think it adds like compositional interest. Such a weirdly distracting sound, the pen nib. I remember in my high school drawing class, we learned how to do pen and ink with a quill. And I remember that same scratchy sound and scratchy feeling of learning to dip the quill in ink and scratch it out on the paper. But now that I don't have to, I don't think I would go back to a quill pen. I like using the Micron ink pens just fine. And then I am woefully underprepared today because I don't have my kneaded eraser with me. All I have at my desk is a mechanical pencil eraser, so it's going to have to suffice, but I know it's not the same. Oh, actually, I wanted to go ahead and do this. Oh, wrong pen. Here's the one. Do this line over here. I'm already worried that this eraser is going to be more smudgy. So I'm going to try and be really sure to do it on the oldest lines, the ones that are most dry. Oh, sorry, I'm shaking you guys. I'll try to hold the tripod steady. Man, I am so spoiled by kneaded erasers and the lack of eraser shavings. This is terrible. And again, I don't mind if this is a little bit messy. It's just a study, nothing too formal. Sometimes I kind of like when things look a little bit more, I don't know, a little more student-like, a little more improvised. I feel like that kind of releases me from some obligation as well. It used to very much stress me out when my pen would smudge or I'd get like little smears or specks on my paper because I wanted the background of everything to be so pristine. So it's nice to let that go a little bit. There we go. Let's get a little bit of a watercolor wash going on. My trusty water cup that I've had since I was a little kid. And again, I'm no watercolor pro. I'm just kind of doing what intuitively I would want to do. This paper says it's mixed media paper, but I'm actually finding that it's not doing too well with the water. I actually think my usual Bristol board might be a little bit more sturdy. I'm starting to notice the little flakes of the paper kind of pilling up under the water, which isn't a very good sign for mixed media paper. It's usually good for both wet and dry, but this is the first time I've painted in this little sketch pad. Get some green for the stem. My favorite coffee mug right now is almost this exact combo of purple and green. And then for the little tips in there, I almost want to do like a really pale yellow. Be very light and gentle. Oh, it immediately bled into the purple, which I would have been able to anticipate if I had been thinking about it. That's okay. It's okay. Watercolor is so easily fixable. That is fine. So then looking at some more details here, I think I do want to add a little bit of shading. I want to kind of emphasize the folds in the petals right here, this little like overlapping curl. And I think I would like to add in some of the little freckles over here on this side. Obviously, my watercolor wash is a little bit of a warmer purple than the actual rhododendron. I'm okay with that. I don't know, I don't really feel the need to do an exact color match on it. But let's go ahead and pick out some colored pencil colors for doing some shading. I think this kind of cooler, let's see, what is this? Parma Violet might be a good one. I think for the freckles, a kind of deep yellowy brown. Maybe goldenrod against the purple will do what I want it to, with just a touch of sienna brown. Might add a little bit of green, probably apple green to the stem. And then let's see. I have a violet colored pencil. This one might be a little dark. I have mulberry, which is pretty red. I'm not sure if I would really need that. I'll pull it in case, but I don't think I'll use it. I do have this really pale orchid. I could try that for some texture. I don't think it will really do much in the way of shading, but it could be interesting. Yeah, I think we'll start with those. Now, some parts of this are still drying, so I have to start with the areas that are already dry because I don't want to walk away from this and wait. I just want to keep going with the momentum that I have. So I'm going to start with the stem, go in with some apple green. Right away, I'm noticing there's a little bit of shadow right underneath the petals against this far end. A little bit over here, as well as a tiny bit of brown towards the bottom and on this side. Okay, this petal is feeling pretty dry. So I'm gonna go ahead and try with the violet. And my goal is just to have the colored pencil kind of fade back out to the watercolor. This is a little damp. Not too bad though. Let me add some of these freckles. This colored pencil does a good job, I think, of adding them in pretty subtly. Just like in the real flower, they're not really noticeable unless you're looking for them, which I like. Kind of like ridges up here. And then maybe a little bit of the mulberry after all, right on this side, just a touch. Okay. Let's start seeing where else I can go. This area is still pretty damp. I'll get a little bit more over here. Add a little bit of mulberry. I love all of these purple shades. Part of the reason I love drawing flowers and botanicals is not just the shapes, but really the color palette. I love all of the opportunities for different colors. I do wish I had more blue flowers though. I feel like that's kind of something I'm lacking in drawing material. Get some shading back behind here. Probably won't go too much longer. I think we're kind of nearing that semi-arbitrary 25-ish minute mark I set for myself at the beginning of this. A few lines in here. a little bit there. And then I want to go back in and add just a little bit more of this warm tone, the mulberry. There we go. I don't even know if this one doesn't really show up over the watercolor wash. This would have been a great like base layer coat if I hadn't done the watercolor. A few more details up here. All right, there's how we're looking. Our real rhododendron next to our little study for today. Thanks so much for joining me as I did some painting and drawing today. Here's our little study in different lighting. If I remember, I'll try and post this one on my Instagram. I've been kind of absentee on there lately, but I do have a whole backlog of different things I've sketched and drawn that I could post on there, so one of these days I'll get around to it. But thank you so much for joining me, and I'll see you guys again in the next one. Bye!